I want to talk to you about closing a wound with glue. Lots of commercially available products. The one we used oftentimes is Dermabond, but it's not the only one out there. So you have a patient with a wound, you're trying to decide how are you going to close it. Is glue a good option? When is glue a good option? First of all, the wound has to be dry, right? Glue's not going to stick if you got a patient who's doing a ton of bleeding, get somebody on a blood thinner or something like that. So if you want to use glue, you got to stop the bleeding, you got to dry the wound. Second thing you have to consider, is it a contaminated wound? This is going to seal that bad boy shut completely. They're going to have no ability to clean down in that wound. That wound is going to have no ability to drain once you seal it with glue. So if you've got somebody that was bit by an animal, even if that animal was a person, no glue. You have somebody who fell trail running and they've got a bunch of mulch in a wound, no glue. Somebody, even dirty water, I probably wouldn't glue that closed. Any contaminated wound, glue's not the right closure technique for you. Has to be a wound that you can approximate easily, right? This is not the time to try to close a really complicated wound. Use stitches for that. And finally, hair. If you've got a patient with really hairy arms, they cut under their beard, something like that, glue's probably not the best option, okay? So you've decided that glue's the option for you. What are you gonna do? These are all single use. The glue lives in this tube. You've got to squeeze it. There's a glass vial in there that will break, and that will allow you to access the glue. Once you squeeze it and once you break that glass vial, it's going to dry up quickly if you don't keep it flowing. The way you keep it flowing is by squeezing. You'll have drops come out, okay? But if you don't bring glue through that tip every 30 seconds or so, it's eventually going to dry up in there, okay? So what do? You're going to close the wound. You're going to hold that wound closed. And you are gonna squeeze and apply a single line over the wound, okay? You might need a second set of hands. In theory, you only need one layer, okay? Don't feel like you have to apply 4 layers of glue. They tell you you only need 1 layer, okay? Once you've applied, if I had an assistant, I'd have them hold, but that's okay. Once you've applied the glue, you want to hold the wound edges for about 60 seconds and allow that wound to dry and allow those edges to approximate and be there. If you let go too soon, obviously things might pull apart. Be aware that some people have a burning sensation with this glue. You may even get a little on your skin and notice that it burns. So it's not a completely pain-free process. So don't dismiss a kid when they're screaming during this. It might actually burn. Resist the urge to blow on it, okay? Don't blow your dirty germs onto your patient. What are you gonna counsel your patients once they go home with the glue? Can they get it wet? Absolutely. Tell them to shower, tell them to keep it clean. They can even get in the pool. Remember, this thing is sealed completely shut. What they can't do is put antibiotic ointment on it. Anything petroleum-based will dissolve the glue. So no antibiotic ointment with the glue. And then you tell them that this will wear off. We usually tell them it'll wear off over the course of a week or so. I've had patients that have said it lasted for weeks. It's lasted for weeks. So you might counsel them that it can stick on for a little bit, okay? Certainly they could always apply their own antibiotic ointment if they wanted to speed the process up and the wound was healed. And then obviously if you're doing this to a kid, you gotta keep them from touching it, right? So you may have to distract them or hold them down for a little bit longer. They don't stick their hand up there and get it covered in glue. But that's it. That's how you close a wound with Dermabond. So what do you do when a kid comes in, that kid's been running, they fall, they hit their forehead, and they've got a perfect laceration for glue, but it's right by their eyebrow or their eye, and you're thinking, Lord have mercy, I can't get eye glue in this person's eyeball. Grab some Tegaderm. We're gonna pretend like my saran wrap is Tegaderm, and you're gonna cut a hole out of the middle of your Tegaderm, right? Think 4th grade art class, fold it in half, cut out a semicircle, open it back up. I can now put that hole over the wound, cover the eyebrow and the eye with Tegaderm, and any glue that runs off of my wound now runs onto the Tegaderm and stays out of the hair, out of the eyebrows, off of the eye.